All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started, just briefly introducing the event to those participants that are already in the room. However, I am continuing to admit people that are joining. And of course, I'm not the best multitasker, but I'll do my best to talk and continue admitting people. But for those of you that are here, sorry, go ahead.
No, if you want, because you wanted to introduce it, I can click admit.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Haydon. Yes, keep admitting people. So hi, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for coming to today's GeoCommunication event, or workshop, I should say, because that is the point of this event, is that there will be a hands-on workshop portion to this. This is being hosted by the AAPG Women's Network. My name is Rebecca Caldwell, and I am the one of the AAPG Women's Network technical programming chairs. We are doing this as a joint event with between AAPG Women's Network, but also AAPG, AAPG Foundation, AGI, and Geologize. So this is a really big effort. We've got a lot of people here today to talk to you, and we're really excited for we're really excited to discuss and share and work on geology communication, which we believe is a very important part of all of our careers as geologists, whether we are students, all the way through retired and still talking to your friends and others about geology. So communication is really key when it comes to any aspect of using our science. And so we're really excited to have everybody here today. And the only thing we have, one other thing I'd like to say is please join the AAPG Women's Network, and please keep an eye open for our upcoming events. We have the Geology of Whiskey, which will be hosted on October 27th. And actually that event lead is in here right now. So Stefano, if you want to drop some of those info, like just the date and time in the chat so that people know. I know we haven't officially advertised yet, but keep your eyes open. October 27th, Geology of Whiskey. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to AGI, and AGI is going to spend a little bit of time sharing some thoughts they have on geocommunication and some experiences they'd like to share.
Okay, great. Carrie, I'll go off your email.
That sounds great.
All right. And good afternoon, everyone, if you are on Eastern time. And I think we have a poll in the queue. Is that correct, Rebecca? Okay. So there's oftentimes throughout careers, the question comes up that, and I just lost my notes, excuse me here. Oh, your poll.
Sorry, is it the poll probably jumped up?
Okay. So oftentimes you get asked the question, well, what do you do as a geologist? And sometimes you have a great answer. You have your elevator speech in your back pocket, which is perfect. And sometimes it might be in the context of a conversation and you just get kind of caught flat-footed. You're at a loss of words. And so the purpose of this poll is just to ask you, have you ever been in that situation and, just been stuck? And as that poll gets responses, I'll just keep going. And I think many of you are aware of this, but it helps to kind of talk about it. But we all have as geoscientists, we have our own communication standard. We have our acronyms, and we know what different words mean and the implications of them. And one of my favorite examples to share is I was filming an educational project for Florida's earth science teachers many years ago. And we were out in the middle of a swamp drilling a core. And during the filming, we were capturing the coring and the drilling. And I was talking about the economic value of drilling, whether it's energy, mineral, water resources, or what have you, or just general knowledge of the subsurface. And anyway, this gentleman appeared. We didn't expect any people walking up because we were really in the middle of nowhere. But this man with his dog appeared on the road and just stood and watched us for a while. And he noticed on the vehicle, the drill truck, it said Florida Geological Survey, established in 1907. And I walked up to him once we could take a break in the filming and said, "Sir, do you have any questions? Can I help you?" And he goes, "Yeah, so you're the Florida Geological Survey. And I said, yes, sir. And you were established in 1907. I said, yes, sir. And so you're not done yet with your survey? And this floored me. This story cracks up everyone I share it with. But the reason that it really sticks with me is because of that perception. It sounds like all we do is create a survey, and aren't we done yet? And so being able to relate to your, the person you're speaking with and communicate, and of course I had a response to that, but it's just one of the many stories I could share about people who just don't quite understand what geology is or what the concepts are that we're trying to portray. And that's why this communication piece is so vital.
It is. And John, I have a very similar experience in my work up here in Alaska. And it just highlights, that communication, while we're effective communicators amongst our community, we need to be effective communicators to the public and outside of the geoscience community. And this is just one of those emerging challenges that we face as geoscientists. We're a unique group of scientists and people, and we have a great opportunity to communicate the vital role of our profession in geoscience and how it can be used in solving so many of the problems that we face the planet, from energy, environment, food security, safe water, climate change, natural disasters, and sustainability. And by leading by example, by our effective communication and speaking organically and passionately about the societal impact of our work, not just the work itself, not what do you do, it's like, what do you change? How do you impact society? And implementing a DEI element of it across geoscience, and persisting to create the conversations and be leading those conversations to effectively communicate.
Right. And so the one of the pieces of this is, well, how do we build that personal relationship? How do we address that to the point where, people will actually listen, they will hear, they will comprehend. And a lot of that just has to do with, making that connection personal. And one way that is recommended is, become a part of your community where you live, and don't keep quiet what you do, but share it, but make it not about the industry, not about your company, not about your organization you work for, but about what you do. In other words, be seen as a human, as a person, and you become relatable that way. They don't see you as the oil and gas industry or the drilling or the water development industry or whatever it is. They see you as a person, and then the barriers start to fall away and they really start to comprehend. And then for everybody, but especially youth, learning how to be an effective storyteller and tell a story that just, most people are, engaged. They're listening to you. They're, you are spot on because you're telling the story, they're taking it in. So being that effective storyteller is an important piece of it. And having a common communications platform, something that, when you're building this rapport, they can relate, they can understand, and there are just so few barriers. So how do we do this? Well, that's why you're here. Geologize and the Practical Geocommunications course are an outstanding resource to make this happen and help everyone, regardless of where you are in your skill set for public communication and relating to people. You will learn something from this platform.
Yes, and many would say it's our ethical obligation and part of the geoscience enterprise to communicate, raising awareness, the importance and relevance of the geosciences, highlighting the diverse range of our career paths and the bright outlook in the employment of geoscience. Emphasizing how important the geoscience role is in addressing some of those societal changes or challenges that we have facing us as society. And so as John mentioned, it applies to all of the across industry, government, academia. Nobody is not going to be part of this.
Back to you, Rebecca.
Thanks. All right. Thank you very much, AGI representatives. Let's hear a bit from AAPG now.
Rebecca, thanks. And Carrie and John, just picking up where you guys left off, I thought, what you said was so important. One of the things that we're really focused on within the AAPG Foundation is the future, the next generation. And I think making that connection with and spreading the word about how the geosciences are essential pieces, not optional, but actually essential pieces to solving some of the global challenges that you described, is one of the main reasons why the foundation is interested in this. The foundation has really been a strong supporter of AGI, and particularly its education activities for many decades now. But coming from my perspective, within the AAPG context, I've focused mostly on an energy lens, an energy prism, and it is remarkable to me, as someone who sits within this bubble, to get out and talk to folks about what it is to find oil and gas. Walking around Capitol Hill, I cannot tell you how many people are thinking, have a mental model of a straw that's sticking into a lake of oil in a cave in the subsurface. I was taking a colleague of mine when I was at the University of Utah around. He was carrying a small core plug with a fracture in it that was less than a centimeter wide. It was about a half a centimeter and produced tens of megawatts of geothermal power, and from 7,000 feet depth. So as we would go around to the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, we'd be showing this core plug and say, when we talk about geothermal research, this is what we're looking for. And so it really is remarkable, and in terms of how we actually need to be out talking about what's under our feet. We were talking earlier about the fact that nobody reads anymore. Well, very few people actually think about what's happening underneath their feet until something cataclysmic happens. And I think our opportunity here is to actually to heighten the discourse. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about Practical Geocommunication 3.0 is that the way we tell that story is changing. The technologies we use, the means whereby we communicate is changing. So that's one of the things I'm excited about. Val, I know you as an AAPG Foundation trustee have been excited about this. You've joined me in Washington in the past talking to policymakers. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Thank you, David. And I'm really proud to be part of the AAPG Foundation and sponsoring and contributing to this effort, because it is so critical to our science. And as AAPG is going into the future, we really need to inspire more young people to try out the idea of studying geology. It thrills us, but we need to get that idea across to a lot of the younger students that maybe aren't thinking about taking up the science of geology or even some of the other STEM classes. I'm a little bit unique in my background because I've enjoyed the opportunity to work both in mining and in oil and gas. And thanks to many of the programs that AAPG offered, I was able to be retreaded from the mining perspective and learn the tools that we need to pursue petroleum geology. But I've also had the opportunity to work in multiple countries and areas that running across people that, first off, don't know what a geologist is, cannot imagine that I would be a geologist. And this is going back a number of years when there were few women in the field. So it's, I think, incumbent upon us to get the message across. This is a thrilling, exciting occupation, and we need the tools to get that message across. And I think that's what this seminar is going to help us to do.
Val, thanks. Haydon, I know we want to get to you. Just two quick things before I turn over the mic. One is to thank the AAPG Women's Network for hosting this event. Rebecca, thanks to you and the entire team for putting this together. And Rebecca said it was okay if I made a shameless plug to please renew your membership. If you have not been seeing your regular Explorer and Bulletin emails, please go to the AAPG website and you can renew your membership there. And you'll see this information one more time or a couple more times. I'll also drop it into the chat. But in terms of how you as an AAPG member actually access this course, you go to the AGI website or the AGI page on Geologize's website. It's training.geology.org/pages/AGI. I'll drop this into the chat. And then there is a place when you where you check out where you can insert a coupon code, and this is AAPG specific coupon code. So this is for you as an AAPG member to use, and that will then take the retail price of $400 down to $0. And so we really encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity. It's a unique opportunity that Haydon has provided, and the AAPG Foundation trustees were really excited about the opportunity to make this available, not just to AAPG members, but to all of the AGI member societies. So with that, Rebecca, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks so much, David. I'm just going to go ahead and pass it over to Haydon, because now we're going to move on to Haydon Mort, who is here with us from Geologize. If you saw in the chat, he already dropped his email address. So if you're not following the chat, please go ahead and look in case you want to get in touch with him. But now I'm going to let him go ahead and take it away. Thanks, Haydon, for joining us.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, everybody, all 25 of you who have joined us today. It's absolutely wonderful. And I think this is the first time I've actually said this in person to the AAPG Foundation. A huge thank you. I mean, this has been a game changer, to be honest with you. I mean, this is the single biggest license in the world when it comes to opening up communication training to all geoscientists. And so I'm almost out of the market thanks to you guys, but in a very, very good way, because I actually want as many people, as a legacy issue for me, to have access to communication. Not only does it bring immense personal value as an employee or as an entrepreneur, I think Warren Buffett says learning to communicate essentially doubles your worth. But also, as was mentioned before by the other speakers, it is essential not just to communicate what we do, but in terms of shifting society's opinion about critical issues such as the energy transition. So if we don't communicate that effectively, it's very difficult to have a social license to operate and to bring the public with us. So that's all very critical. And so communication isn't just some kind of soft skill, it's an essential skill. And I'm really happy, thanks to the AAPG Foundation, that this is getting out there more ubiquitously. So I want to kick things off now. My job here today is not to be, well, it is to educate, obviously, but I wouldn't be myself and I wouldn't be Geologize if I didn't push a few buttons and push back and challenge you a little bit. It is to get the neurons working. And to begin with, we're going to get the neurons working in the best possible way, and that is to do an online Kahoot quiz. Now, for those of you who know what Kahoot's all about, then there's no surprises, it's great fun. For those of you who don't know Kahoot, which rock have you been living under? Because it is one of the best formative assessment tools that you can use online, that you can get a free version. And mine is the free version, by the way. And I'm going to share my screen now, and you'll see exactly how to access the Kahoot. It's just a quick quiz, just to get you thinking, just get the neurons thinking, and then we'll dive into the presentation, and then we'll get an activity at the end. Okay, I hope that's all clear. So let me just share my screen. And here we are. Now I've just realized as we started this workshop that I hadn't renewed my Kahoot membership. So in fact, there's a 10-player limit to my basic edition. I didn't know that before going in here. So I'm going to ask a favor to the organizers of this session to ignore this Kahoot. Please accompany it, but let the people who have signed up as non-officials to this event have priority, okay? So we've got 10 spaces available and we've got more people than 10 here. So if you can get the organizers, stand back and don't participate, but participate in your mind only, okay? So go for the classic mode, so it's everybody for themselves. In a moment, you want to pick up your phone, please, pick up your smartphone and go to this website here, kahoot.it, kahoot.it. Or if you want, you can just scan this QR code. Once you're at kahoot.it, you simply put in this game pin. I say AD is already here, so AD's got the hang of it. So put the game pin in 9037419. That's the, all right. We'll just, it's pretty self-explanatory. The instructions are actually on the screen. I don't know why it says player limit reached. That can't be right. I've got a 10-player limit. Okay, please continue to try and log in. I don't know why it said there was 10 players available to come in here. That's annoying. Right. I'm not going to upgrade now because it costs $800. Okay, I don't know why it says limit reached. I do beg your pardon. You know, it doesn't really matter if your name is actually on the board. The important thing is that you're actually seeing the screen and accompanying the questions, okay? But if that's all we've got, we're going to go with M, Tesney, and AD, all right? The rest of you who didn't get there beforehand, please play along in your head. This is just as important, okay? Okay. Okay, the first one is a poll, just a quick poll. Who here has enrolled on practical geocommunication? Who here, of you three, have enrolled on practical geocommunication? Okay. Well, that doesn't really go very much because we've only got 3 players here. But anyway, now I'm going to go dive into the questions now, okay? What is the most common public misconception about fracking? There is a correct answer, of course. Only 3 of you say, okay, most of you got that right. It always causes earthquakes. That is a misconception. AD has answered all the questions correctly and in the fastest possible time. So AD, if you're a man or a lady, a girl, but you're in the lead. Which of these statements would resonate most with an audience hostile to the energy sector? It's not growing its mind. Do you know how much your life depends on petrochemical products? You're right. We need an energy transition urgently. Do you want to go back to living in a cave? Well, I'm really glad that everybody, and I hope that everybody here, 25 people here, would have said the same thing. But we do say this quite frequently, don't you, on social media forums, especially echo chambers, that, you know, mining industry has not grown its minds, and we do tout how important, how dependent we are on hydrocarbons. But of course, it makes perfect sense that if you are communicating with an audience hostile to the energy sector, and let's be honest, that's the majority, then that one there, you're right, we do need an energy transition urgently, is going to resonate the most. So why don't we say that more often? Moving on. Which of these is the best for broadcasting science to a wider audience? LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or X, or Instagram? A wider audience. We have Twitter. Oh, that's interesting. So I don't know if nobody said the correct answer, which is Instagram. The majority of people who follow you are people with a similar interest to you on Twitter. And the same goes for LinkedIn, and Facebook is mostly for an older demographic. But a wider audience, people who are outside your echo chamber, that is Instagram, right? Now, with that in mind, this is where I start to push some buttons, okay? No offense to anybody, but these are important subjects, okay? Here we go. Which of these does the AAPG Women's Network not currently use? That is the correct answer. Now, we have been talking in the prelude to this quiz about the importance to reaching out to engage people who are not part of our community. And so this isn't something typical. This is not something unique to the AAPG Women's Network. It's pretty common for everybody. Now, I know what Rebecca's going to say. We do have Instagram. We do. But
actually, it was hacked and everything was deleted and we lost access to it. And that's why we don't use it.
I beg your pardon. I was
We'd used to use it.
and I said, that's very good that you just jumped in there. It's good that you had it.
But
I just saw there was nothing there. I appreciate
this
that.
was an issue a while ago, and we need to get back on trying to solve using it again. So thank you. This was actually good. It's a little poke to us to work on it again. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much, Rebecca. I appreciate that. Okay, so good. So not currently, they don't have it at the moment, but they did, and they're going to get back to it. What's the most effective way to counter misconceptions about the energy sector? Do we ignore it? Do we empathize and propose counter arguments? Do we use humor or satire, or do we confront it aggressively? Bingo. It actually makes logical sense, doesn't it? We should empathize. But it's strange how much we don't empathize. And in fact, this is one of the cornerstones of practical geocommunication, is how to communicate using empathy. We're going to get onto that. Looks like AD has run away with it. Here we go. Which of these is not a recommended strategy for communicating risk in the energy sector? Percentages, analogies, absolute numbers, visual aids. Okay, now that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I hoped it would be one of those two, but in fact, percentages, people have a, despite high school, the quality of the math in American high school education, but in general, the general public don't have a very good notion of percentages. Absolute numbers resonate slightly better, but by far the best options are relatable analogies and visual aids. No change. We're getting to the end. What is the most effective way to build trust with communities affected by energy projects? Financial incentives, promotional campaigns, transparency and engagement, legal arguments. Yes, you're absolutely right. It is transparency and engagement, which again kind of begs the question, why do we keep emphasizing when we do community outreach? Why do we always keep emphasizing? First and foremost, the economic benefits is going to bring the local community, right? We almost never try to balance this power asymmetry between the company and the local community. We never really go out of our way to be transparent and really genuinely engage the local population. It's getting better, used to be much worse, but still, it's obvious when I ask you which of these is the best, but still too often we instinctively go for the other options. Okay, which of these techniques will be most powerful in capturing an audience's attention, agreeing with them, maintaining eye contact, arguing against your interests, challenging everything they say. Most powerful, remember, most powerful. Maintaining eye contact, let's be honest, all of these are really important, okay? Well, except the green one. If you challenge everything they say, then you'd be defensive and hostile. But all the other three are very important, okay? But perhaps the most important, the one that really captures their attention, that really makes them sit up and say, what on earth did this person just say? I really need to listen. Arguing against your own interests. Say something that actually undermines your position, because in that way, the person is saying, this person actually isn't trying to sell themselves. And that's actually a very, very powerful way, even more than eye contact. You will grab their eye contact if you do that. Okay, multi-select. Here we go. This is just a joke, okay, everybody. How many petroleum geologists does it take to explain fracking to the public? 1, but they need a translator for all the jargon. 2, 1 to explain and another to handle the Twitter backlash. 3, 1 for facts, 1 for PR, and 1 as a scapegoat. And 4 for a panel discussion. Which do you think makes more sense? This is not going to contribute to the actual. I see you've got a slight preference for that one. It's probably about accurate. Okay, let's have a look at the scoreboard at the end. Again, I apologize. We haven't got very many people doing this. Third place, we have Jonathan. I'm not sure if that's John Arthur, Tessney, and at the top we have AD. Not sure who AD is, but AD, if you can contact me, please. I've got a little prize for you. Okay, so my email address is in the chat, and if you just scroll up, you can see that, and I will send you your prize. Okay, just closing my screen here, and then I will get on to the presentation for real. So I hope that has given people some pause for thought. Okay, and it's not actually. As I said, it's a bit weird. Some of these answers were a bit obvious, but I want you to reflect as we go through this activity today, this workshop. Why wasn't it? Why don't we do the things that we kind of intuitively as human beings, as close relatives of chimpanzees, why don't we actually do the things which are actually instinctive for us? Because if you think about it, the way we connect to other human beings is really fundamentally based on biology, on the apparatus that evolution has bequeathed each and every one of us. We need to work with that apparatus if we're actually going to effectively communicate. And that's what practical geocommunication attempts to do. Okay, so we're going to now jump over to Canva, and I am going to present this workshop. I can hear somebody. I'm going to mute Sarah. I think that was. Apologies, Sarah. I'm not sure what that noise was. I'd like to guess. Okay, we're going to launch this presentation now and get on our way. So yeah, it's all about how do we present effectively. And as David said, this is the code. So if you're an AAPG member, then please scan this code. It'll take you directly to the checkout page of Practical Geocommunication. And then you just simply insert this coupon code and you'll get free access, right? So globally, I'm absolutely thrilled that over the space of 2.5 years, 19,000 people have enrolled. And since the APGF funded the license for AGI member societies, 1,200 have enrolled already. And that's by far and away the most successful license in the world so far. So really, I'm really happy that the foundation is getting a bang for its buck, but I'm even more happy that so many geoscientists have seen value in this. And so far, the reviews have been fantastic from your members. As I said, if you don't have time, You please, if you can, get your smartphone out, take a photo. If you're not enrolled already, get in there. Okay, do that. And I expect my inbox to be full of new enrollments. That'd be fantastic. I will show this again at the end of this presentation. Okay. All right. So this is kind of important. As we mentioned before, you know, there is a crisis in the geosciences. If you look at Google Trends, search result terms over the past 20 or so years, you can see that all the search results, all the inquiries with regards to these particular search queries, geology, geoscience, earth science, they've all shown this precipitous decline. Okay, it's very consistent. And this is a reflection, if you like, of the global consciousness of geoscience. And that's kind of disturbing. And it's also directly seen at universities. This isn't a function of the commodities super cycle. No, this is a consistent precipitous decline, and we need to do something about it urgently. One, to plug the talent gaps in the pipeline, the talent pipeline gaps, but also to get young people, especially, reinvigorated, re-energized about the geosciences, so we can get these numbers back up again. Very, very important. And why these numbers like that? Well, I think we kind of know why. We thought about it a lot. And these are the most common reasons why we think there has been a decline. Well, of course, there are environmental disasters from the hydrocarbon industry and from the mining industry. And so when people think about geology, they do think that it's a dirty subject, the subject of the past. When I was at school, people used to think, well, why are you interested in the earth? It's just studying mud and soil. It's boring, even though mud is actually fascinating, but it's not studying mud. It's about the sustaining of our life on the planet. But we can't help it. We have to understand that this is where people's consciousness is right now. And so any communication strategy that we have must start from this skeptical point of view. Okay. And the honest truth, everybody, I don't mind me saying, is that when we actually speak to the public, or when this public do interact with us, especially about the energy sector, it would be something like this. Who cares about geology? It's just boring old rocks and it hurts the planet. Okay. So they think about the extractive industries. What do we say? What do you say? People here, geologists, geoscientists of some color, what do you say in response to this question? Well, I've done polls on this numerous times, and I'm going to show you what the most common answer is amongst geoscientists, what geoscientists say in response to this question. Okay, now pay attention. These are geoscientist quotes I'm about to show you. Everything is built on geology. Are you a NIMBY? So you don't like the planet? It's the key to a sustainable future. You appear to be confused. The energy sector geologists, your life depends on petroleum-based products. What kind of geology? Do you know where all the elements in your smartphone come from? Really, really big one for the mining industry, that last one there. Now, where do we say this? We either say it to people's faces, and the straw poll of the Kahoot there shows that we know instinctively that these phrases aren't going to win any friends, but we use them anyway. But we don't just use them, we use them in the most ineffective way possible, because we use them on these platforms. I haven't updated this to the X logo yet, but we say these kind of things in these three echo chambers. And these echo chambers have the poorest engagement rate of any social media platform. For those of you who are not enamored with what engagement rate is, it's simply the number of people who have interacted with your content compared to the number of people who've actually seen your content. So let's say, if you keep the math simple, 100 people have seen your post, one person interacts with it, you've got an engagement rate of 1%. Not particularly great, okay? So Twitter or X, Facebook, have got the lowest possible engagement rates. If we want to reach a larger audience, a wider one, we shouldn't be there. And engagement rate of LinkedIn is higher, but still a bit bad. But also it's just to people that we know, it's our contacts, it's professional audiences. So we shouldn't be there. We should be in other areas. You know, we should be on places like Instagram. What does this sound like? Yeah, if we're talking and we're criticizing people about being NIMBYs or saying how much people depend on petroleum-based products. How does this sound like from the outside? And if somebody from the outside is looking into our echo chamber and is seeing this discussion, I don't know why they would do that, but if they did, it kind of sounds arrogant. We're giving ourselves a big pat on the back. We shouldn't be doing that. We don't want to come across as arrogant, do we? We want to come across as educated and empathetic and kind and transparent and all of the things that we talked about before. But the way we're doing it so far hasn't been very productive, hasn't been very conducive to promoting our public image of the geosciences. So what about Instagram? What about TikTok? Yes, that's banned before long, but this is 7% engagement rate. Yeah, you've got people. I've got geoscientist friends on Instagram, such as Kate Larson, the groovy geologist, who's on Practical GeoCommunication. You know, she's got a 10% engagement rate. That is absolutely, she's killing it for somebody with 150,000 followers. That is an unheard of engagement rate. Incredible. So why isn't industry there? And why aren't more geologists there if they truly care about reaching outside our echo chamber and to connect with the next generation, to talk about what geologists actually do? We should be more present on these platforms. And when we are present, I'm talking about industries right here. This is how it's done. So this is a very major player in the extractive industries. They've got close to 500,000 followers. And look at this. They haven't got an engagement rate of 10% like Kate Larson. They've got an engagement rate of 45%. Okay. Sounds impressive. But if you dig into it, this is impossible. Not even the biggest mega influencer in the world has an engagement rate above 20%. So these are impossible statistics. It's absolutely clear that these are purchased. So somebody in this company has purchased likes and comments. There are 0 negative comments, which is for an oil company pretty much impossible. And this is what I like to call a UN brochure style page, where you would never guess that this was possibly an oil and gas company. Yeah, it looks like something from the UN Sustainable Development Project. And so it comes across from the outside. I'm not saying this looks beautiful. It's like a beautiful Instagram feed here. But from the outside, remember, let's go back to my main point. Most people are either ambivalent or hostile to the extractive industries, especially oil and gas. That is the fact, okay? So they come to an oil and gas company profile and they see this. What are they going to think? Okay, they're going to think, this is BS, excuse my French. This is whitewash. I don't believe this. Yeah, it's actually going to make the problem worse because it's not building trust. There's nothing organic about this whatsoever. There's nothing that connects us in a human way. Okay. So, as I briefly alluded to before, QED, we need a common strategy that starts from the negative perception, or at least starts from interests that the general public has. What is the general public interested in? Not particularly geology. Well, we can think about that. It's the audience. This is actually the most oft quoted back to me part of the course. It's the audience that decides what is interesting, not you, okay? Not us geologists. Of course, we need to be interested in what we're saying. We need to be enthusiastic. But if we really want to connect with the audience, we need to understand, you know, what gets them up in the morning. Why are they, what pushes their buttons? What floats their boat, you know? And then we need to create a narrative around those subjects. This is the thesis of empathetic communication. This is the whole point. It needs a bit of lateral thinking, but it absolutely is possible. And if you think about it, it's pretty obvious. Half of communication is listening. I'm communicating with you, I'm not listening. But when we're having a dialogue, as a society, we need to be listening just as much as we are communicating. Okay, what do they care about? What are their interests? And fit your message around those issues, because that will resonate, emotionally resonate much more effectively with the audience. Okay, and you can do this. You can absolutely do this. I've just put a bunch of stuff on the screen here. You can use Google Trends to see what people are thinking about in real time, in particular locations of the world. You can filter by geographical location. There are trends in toys that you can actually use to geologize, use analogies for toys. You can use hashtags, hashtag generator, and you can actually see what people are using, what hashtags are trending right now. And then think to yourself, well, how can I actually create some content on social media in this case, but it could be anywhere. Yeah, maybe you're being invited to give a talk at a public library or a town forum. You can actually see which hashtags are in the consciousness of the people, the users in that particular region at that particular time. And then you can start to introduce a dialogue, a speech, which will resonate around these particular subjects. It's absolutely, absolutely possible. But you need to have access to the tools that let you do that. And practical geocommunication gives you those tools. It's one of the things that's part of the course. So I'm going to wrap things up and we're going to go to the practical activity in a moment, but it is a very large package. Okay, I mean, just the core modules of practical geocommunication are about 9 hours worth of professional development, and it goes from the basics of psychology and neuroscience. So what is the apparatus in the brain, the basal ganglion, the anterior cingulate cortex? Why are these things really important for actually orientating people's attention? We go to confronting misinformation, advocacy, linguistic tools such as analogies and metaphors and meta language, reading between the lines, because that is the sing-song of language. People use those kinds of linguistic tools, not just directly speaking and informing. We need to actually use the linguistic tools which humans have developed as a species. Social media, as I've alluded to, huge, incredibly powerful. And we are uniquely ill-equipped as geoscientists to use social media, unless it's Twitter, X, or LinkedIn. So we need to actually use the algorithm to our advantage, and the course will help you do that. Large number of people interested in geoparks and geotourism, indigenous outreach. I have, in the US, I have Navajo Indian, who's also a geoscientist on the course, talking about their experience. Instagram and TikTok, as I said, with the groovy geologist, the one and only Kate Larson, who was actually at Image last month. Gamification, VR, poetry, writing. There's a lot of bonus material in this regard. So it's quite an extensive training course, and it's totally for free. Okay, you have free access. In all likelihood, if you're watching me now, you have absolutely free access to this. So I'm not selling you anything. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain from this. And as I hope I've convinced you so far, it's critical not just for our science, but for the health of society. So I strongly recommend you do it. I said to you that I was going to show you this again at the end. This is it. Please get out your phones if you haven't already, snap this QR code, and then click have a coupon and put in AAPG AGI PGGZ 2324, and you will have free access to the training. Okay, and I hope the next calendar month, when I report back to Jeff and John at the AGI, we'll have 1,400 accesses through that. Fingers crossed. Okay, now if you need this information again, please, again, my email address is in the chat. You can just drop me a line. I'm going to click now, and we're going to go on to the practical activities, and we're going to breakout rooms, which Rebecca's going to organize. Okay, so practical activities for this workshop. You have 3 options. I'm going to present you with the 3 options, and then Rebecca is going to open a poll, and you're going to vote which of those 3 options you're going to do. And we're going to go with the one which receives the most votes. Okay, we're going to analogies, which I call geologizing, the namesake of my company. Social media analysis, mis or disinformation. I've got 1 slide for each of these activities, so you'll understand exactly what you have to do. Get your phones out again right now, or a pen and paper, because you'll need to make a note of what you have to do. Okay, I told you this is going to be interactive, you know, not just me listening, you listening to me the whole time. You've got some work to do, so let's do it. Okay, the first one, analogies. It's one of my favorite things. So identify an object in your home that can be geologized. Right? What about it is kind of similar to a geological process or concept? Yeah, and just to get your neurons lubricated, I put in some examples. So like an eroding soap bar could signify erosion and weathering, say. Coffee grounds settling at the bottom of a cup. It's kind of like sedimentation, right? Layered sand art in a bottle. Again, stratification of rock layers. Okay, there's an infinite number of things you can do. Literally, I made a successful social media profile on Instagram and YouTube only about this. Okay, people really like it. People like it because you're using everyday objects that people can relate to. Okay, hope you've taken a photo. I'm taking a photo. I am moving on in 3, 2, 1 for the next activities. Social media. Again, snap a photo very quickly with your smartphone. You want to open hyperauditor.com/free tools/Instagram audit. Okay, and I want you to compare the engagement rate for these following profiles. Okay, Groovy Geologist, that's Kate Larson's profile. AAPG Geologist, that's the official AAPG Instagram account. We need to look at ourselves, everybody, right? And also, I've also included an oil and gas major, Equinor. Okay, most active in North Sea, coast of the UK. Okay, so with that data, then I want you to actually look at each profile on Instagram and rank by audience health. Okay. Okay, how healthy is that Instagram profile? How much interactions does it have? How engaged are the users? Okay, do that for me. That would be wonderful. Now, last activity, we're moving on in 3, 2, 1. If you take a photograph of this, it's going to disappear. And now, misinformation or disinformation. Okay, maybe a bit more involved. Find and cite, locate some misinformation you know about on the internet. Okay, it's important that you know about it because it's probably in your mind already. Otherwise, it will take quite a long time for you to find it. For the purposes of this activity, it's better if you know about it already. What makes the information misleading or false? Identify the author and discover why they would state what they did. Analyze impact. Briefly consider how this false information could affect public understanding or policy. Craft a correction. Now pay attention very carefully to this. I'm not just saying, no, this is all rubbish. Write a short, clear statement that corrects the information, starting, this is the empathy part, starting with the author's perspective first, all right? Okay, so you're trying to put yourself in the author's shoes. You are assuming, you're hoping, but you should assume that the person has said this misinformation with the best intention, who's not deliberately misleading, yeah? So start by trying to empathize first and then go in with your correction, okay? Moving on, if you want to take a picture, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Rebecca, for popping out the poll. You want to answer one of those now, and then we will go. We've got one for social media analysis. These are the 3 options here, and we will see where we are. Thank you. All results pouring in. Social media analysis slightly ahead here.
Yeah, I think the general audience can't see the poll until I close it.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
So yeah. If you guys hear Haydon saying who's ahead, that's because he's a co-host and can see it. Once we have, we already have 77% participation.
Oh, it's pretty close. It's
pretty close right now. We're almost neck and neck between 2. So the remaining 5 people that haven't voted, which I don't think includes me. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds. All right, no more are coming in, so I'm gonna go ahead and share the results. I think now I think the general audience should be able to see the results. Someone can confirm other than because Hayden and I could see it the whole time. Okay, thanks, Sarah. Yeah. All right. So there you go, Hayden.
All right. So I mean, this is this reminds me of the Brexit referendum where it was so close and it really annoyed a lot of people. So I really appreciate if you really, really want to do analogies, you know, far be it from me to say you can't do analogies. Okay. So if you really want to do that, please go ahead. I mean, it's absolutely fine. Very, very tiny. 53% of people said they want to do social media. 47% said they wanted to do analogies. Nobody said they wanted to take on misinformation. That's interesting.
Sounds too much work.
Too much work.
It sounds hard.
It is hard, yeah. But that's what, yeah, we need to stretch ourselves, stretch and challenge. It's one of the things in basic pedagogy, we teach our students to stretch themselves as much as they can. So Rebecca, you're gonna organize some breakout groups, otherwise it gets a little bit confusing.
Yep, I'm gonna break you all out into randomly assigned breakout rooms of 5. So, but I'm gonna wait until we're absolutely done here, because once I click the button for it to go, you'll just automatically be dispersed into those rooms. So yeah, so if you have anything else you wanted to say, Hayden.
No, that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Okay, well then at this point, I'm gonna break everyone out into the rooms. Please do participate for at least a little bit with your group if you can. That's how we can all get the most out of this if we're working with somebody. But then of course, feel free to drop off once you no longer can participate. And we don't have anything else to say here other than thank you so much for coming. And we hope you got a lot out of this, and we'll be getting a lot out of the activity. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm gonna now send you into your breakout rooms.